The museum hired me to watch an empty pedestal. I just saw what's on it. The money is the only thing that's real in this place. $3,000 a week, cash, to sit in a cold warehouse and make sure nobody touches the art. Except, there is no one. There's never anyone. There's just me, the silence, and the things that pretend to be art. The first few nights were just about the quiet. You think you know quiet, but you don't. This was a deep, pressurized silence that pushed in on your eardrums. Every groan of the building's old bones, every shift in the air temperature felt like a presence, a breath on my neck. I'd whip my head around, my heart kicking like a mule against my ribs, and find nothing. Just the vast, empty concrete floor swallowing the light from my desk lamp. It's not a museum, not really. It's a repurposed storage facility, one massive room with a few partition walls. And on those walls hang the paintings. In the center of it all is the main event. A block of polished obsidian, a pedestal about waist high. The little silver plaque in front of it reads, "Do not look when occupied." It's always empty. Almost always. By the fifth night, the silence was starting to scratch at the inside of my skull. I couldn't just sit there anymore. I had to know what this place was. The woman who hired me, Izaveta, had given me nothing but a location and a payroll schedule. The job listing I found was buried so deep on an encrypted forum, it might as well have been a ghost. Discreet attendant for private exhibition, it said. So I started with the art. At my desk, hunched over my laptop, I typed the first title I could remember into the search bar. The Shoreline Griever painting, "Do Not Look When Occupied." The results were garbage. A few broken links. A blog post in Russian about folklore and soul cages, which was way over my head. But then I found it. A cached page from a defunct website for something called the Argentum Circle. It looked like a forum for rich, fucked up collectors. They weren't talking about art. They were talking about vessels and anchors, and there was a photo gallery. Picture after picture of an empty black pedestal, just like ours. But they were all in different places. A lavish ballroom in Vienna, a dusty cellar in Peru, a minimalist apartment overlooking Tokyo. My stomach turned. This thing traveled. The temptation, man. It started as a little itch. After 8 nights of this, it was a screaming infection in my brain. I knew there was something I was missing. I could feel the art watching me, not the other way around. I pushed my chair back, the sound scraping across the concrete, obscenely loud in the quiet. I walked over to the first painting, the Shoreline Griever. It was just a seascape, all churning gray water and a bruised purple sky. Nothing special. I'd glanced at it 100 times, but this time I stared. I let my eyes unfocus, just looking into the heart of it. That's when I saw the shimmer, a tiny, almost imperceptible flicker in the dark waves, like a glitch in reality. I thought my eyes were just tired, playing tricks on me from staring at the screen. I leaned in, trying to get a better look. The flicker vanished, but something else happened. The painting, or something in it, seemed to lean in with me. A subtle shift in the composition, a darkness deepening as if to meet my gaze. I stumbled back a step, a choked sound caught in my throat. What the fuck? I stared, my brain trying to reboot, and then I saw it. The dim overhead lights were catching on the protective glass over the canvas, my own goddamn reflection. Relief hit me like a drug, warm and stupid. I almost laughed. I was losing my mind, seeing my own shadow in the waves. But the relief evaporated as quickly as it came, because the flicker was back. And it was right next to my reflection. A face. A woman's face, pale and thin, her mouth open in a silent scream. Her eyes were fixed on me from behind my own shoulder in the glass. My blood went ice cold. I spun around, every muscle in my body clenched tight enough to snap. Nothing. Empty air. My legs felt like they were full of wet sand. I forced myself to move, to shuffle to the next painting. A dark, oppressive forest scene titled "The Watcher in the Pines." I didn't want to look. I swear to God I didn't. But I had to. I raised my eyes to the glass. My own terrified face stared back, and next to me, reflected clear as day, was an old man with hollow eyes and a thin, cruel mouth. I stood perfectly still, not even breathing, and I watched the reflection of the old man slowly, deliberately turn its head to look at me. My reflection stayed frozen. His moved. The titles. They weren't what was in the painting. They were what the glass showed you. I felt a magnetic pull to the next one, my feet moving without my permission. My eyes scanned the plaque before I even saw the art. What sits in my chair? I looked. In the reflection, I could see the whole room behind me. My desk, my lamp casting its lonely circle of light, and in my chair, a hunched, spidery shape, all sharp angles and shadow, coiled like it was ready to spring. "No fucking way," I whispered, the words getting lost in the huge space. I turned my head so fast, a hot pain shot up my neck. The chair was empty. Of course it was empty. Nothing was there. Nothing I could see, anyway. I could just make out the next plaque from where I stood, the voice at your neck. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard, I thought I was going to be sick. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room, replaced by something thick and heavy, like water. I backed away slowly, my eyes locked on my empty chair, expecting that thing to just appear. The sound of the main door unlocking and swinging open was like a gunshot. I screamed. A short, pathetic yelp. It was Isabetta. She stepped inside, pulling the heavy door closed behind her. She moved without a sound. "Hello, Zev," she said. Her voice was flat, no emotion in it at all. "Just checking in. How are you finding the work? It's fine," I stammered, trying to get my breathing under control. "Your exhibition is something else. It's not mine." She walked past me, gliding toward the back of the warehouse. She took her time, pausing for a moment before each piece, but never looking too closely. When she came back to the front, her eyes flickered over the untouched stack of entry tickets on my desk. She didn't seem surprised. My laptop was still open to the Argentum Circle website, the page with the photos of the empty pedestal. I angled the screen away from her, my hand shaking. "You're doing well," she said, her eyes pinning me in place. "But a word of advice. It learns. It will try to trick you. What will? It will use whatever it can to make you look at the pedestal. Be careful. Your discretion is, as always, appreciated." And then she was gone. No goodbye. The door just clicked shut, plunging me back into the crushing silence. I sank into my chair, my whole body trembling. I turned the laptop back towards me. My gaze fell on the screen. The page was still open to the gallery. A picture of the black pedestal, looking exactly like the one a few dozen feet away from me. Same room, same lighting. It must have been an old photo from this very location. I stared at it. At the empty, polished surface in the photo. My reflection was a faint ghost on the monitor. And then I saw it. The pixels on the screen began to shift, to writhe. It wasn't a reflection. It was the image itself. A dark smear grew from the center of the photograph pedestal, like a drop of ink in water. It coalesced, pulling itself together from the digital noise, rising and taking shape. A gaunt, skeletal figure, draped in shadow, unfolding itself to sit cross-legged right there on the obsidian block. In the picture, it looked right at me. Through the screen. I stared for a full 3 seconds before my brain caught up with my eyes. Before I understood the trick. It wasn't a reflection. It wasn't a ghost in the glass. It was a picture of the occupied pedestal. And I had looked. I screamed and slammed the laptop shut so hard the plastic cracked. The sound echoed and echoed and echoed. Fuck. That counted. Oh God, I know that counted.